One night, Ekaette disappeared, without a trace, and no one dared to speak of it again. The rooster crowed at an odd hour. The river, usually clear, turned dark. The village felt too quiet, like everyone was holding their breath. Iniobong woke suddenly, his heart pounding. Something wasn't right. The air felt thick, like the world was holding its breath. He reached out for Ekaette. Empty space. His pulse quickened. Where was she? He sat up, scanning the room, his eyes jumping from one empty corner to the moonlit window. A cold draft swept through the cracks in the walls. He shivered. What was going on? He called out, barely able to whisper her name. Ekaette! But there was no answer. He tried again, louder, but still no sound. His eyes darted around, his mind racing. He thought back to the strange happenings in the village lately. The rooster crowing at the wrong time, the darkened river, the unnatural stillness that clung to the air. He stood up shaking. He couldn't ignore it anymore. Something was terribly wrong. He rushed out of the house, the wooden door creaking as it swung open. The cold night air hit him like a slap. He called her name over and over, but it seemed to get swallowed by the empty darkness. The village was eerily quiet, too quiet. Normally the sounds of crickets, birds and occasional chatter filled the air. Now it was as if the world had gone still. "Ekaette!" he shouted, his voice filled with fear. His feet led him towards the edge of the village, where the forbidden forest loomed. Its dark trees were a barrier between the village and the unknown. The elders had always warned them never to go into the forest after dark. But tonight, the usual respect for those rules had faded, replaced by an urgent need to find her. He looked down, noticing fresh footprints in the mud leading towards the forest. Her footprints. The realization hit him like a punch to the chest. She had gone into the forest. The path into the forest was barely visible under the cover of the trees, and the air inside seemed colder, heavier, as if the very place was holding its breath. He could hear nothing, just the occasional rustle of leaves. As he pushed through the thick underbush, his mind raced with stories he had heard. The legends of the forest were filled with warning. The spirits who lived there, the forgotten gods who took what they wanted, the people who ventured in and never returned. Suddenly he saw something, a faint glow through the trees. He stopped dead in his tracks. It flickered in and out, like a shadow moving just beyond his reach. He swallowed hard, fear creeping up his spine. His heart raced. What was that? Despite the fear, he took a step forward, drawn by an invisible force, his feet moving against his will. The glow beckoned him like a trap. He took another step, then another, until he was deep within the forest. The trees seemed to close in around him, and he felt the weight of the place pressing on his chest. The wind picked up, and the leaves rustled. It sounded like whispers, soft and distant, but the words were unclear. He froze. It was her voice. It was faint, like an echo, but it sent a chill through him. His throat tightened, and he called out anyways. "Ekaette!" He stumbled forward, his heart pounding in his chest. The trees parted, and he saw it, a figure standing in the darkness. It was her, Ekaette, but something was wrong. The way she stood unmoving, her face hidden behind her hair. It was as though she wasn't really there. He approached cautiously, his legs trembling, and called her name again. This time, she turned to face him. Her eyes were empty, hollow, as though they had seen things beyond this world. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out, only a whisper in the wind. "Iniobong, it's too late. I'm no longer yours." His heart sank. What did she mean? He reached out for her, but she stepped back, disappearing into the mist. The forest around him seemed to shift, as if the very ground was moving. He tried to follow, but every step he took, the mist thickened, and the shadows seemed to grow longer, darker. Suddenly he stopped. In the distance he saw it again. A faint glow. This time it was brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. The glow seemed to be calling him, urging him forward. His legs shook, his mind racing with fear and confusion. But he couldn't stop now. He moved closer, the glow getting brighter until it seemed like the very air was illuminated with strange, unearthly light. But as he reached out to touch it, a figure emerged from the shadows. A tall, hooded figure. The figure stepped forward slowly, deliberately. "The gods have claimed her," the figure said in a voice that sent a shiver down his spine. The figure's eyes glowed with an unsettling, otherworldly light. "If you try to take her back, this village will suffer. There is a reason she's gone, Iniobong. You have no power here." He recoiled, fear rushing through him. His mind raced. What did this mean? Ekaette's figure appeared again, standing just behind the figure, her expression unreadable. "You must go," she said softly. "I belong to the spirits now." Iniobong's chest tightened. No, he couldn't lose her. The figure raised a hand, and a cold wind swept through the forest. The mist thickened. Ekaette's figure faded away, disappearing into the shadows of the forest. She was gone.